Hi folks, today we're going to talk about sound ports, how to cut one, how to install one in your guitar. What is a sound port? A sound port is essentially a sound hole that faces you on the guitar. In other words, let me show you one. Here's a Recording King RK316, and it's got a sound port up here. You can see that. What does it do? Well, when I'm playing, it throws sound at me. Not a lot, but enough that I can hear it better. I can hear more frequencies, the low frequencies and the high. It's not just the people out in front of me that hear the best of the guitar. I get to hear it too. And I think it makes you a better player in some ways because you can hear more accurately what is going out to the audience. Anyway, 1 second. Anyway, so a client of mine wanted to get a sound port put in his guitar, and he couldn't find anybody around where he was living that would do it. This is a fellow from Vermont. So he brought down this very nice Cervantes classical. We marked a spot where when he plays, he tends to play on his right leg but crossed over. Ooh, I can't really say it like that, but where we're going to put the hole is almost directly under his chin. And why do we do that? Because we want the sound to hit both ears. Okay, and that's about as good a place as any. If it's too far this way, it'll only hit this ear. If it's too far back, it'll only hit this way. So we want it right under his chin. So we measured that out last night. And today what I'm doing is I've cut a piece of solid wood. This is actually a little piece of solid mahogany. And it's about 1/16 of an inch thick. And I'm going to install this with the grain running perpendicular to the grain on the side. The side of the grain on the guitar is going this way. This grain is going this way. So when I put this inside, glue this to the inside of the guitar to give strength to the area where I'm going to put the sound port, it'll hold the grain so it won't want to split. There won't be any splitting coming off the grain. Now I know a lot of guys will put sound ports in and they don't do that. They just cut a hole in the side and that's good to go. And probably in many cases that would be the case, but I like to fault to more secure, a more robust hole, one that can really withstand any movement, any shrinkage, any humidity changes. I don't want it splitting from there ever. So this little patch goes on the inside. It gets glued to the inside. Now it's relatively straight right now. I've actually been bending it a little bit, but it's relatively straight right now. The first thing I need to do is I need to form it to shape the side of the guitar. And I'm not going to do this here because it will split pretty easily along the grain by bending it. So what I'll need to do is I will put plastic over the guitar, plastic sheeting over the guitar here, and then I will dampen this, and when it gets wet, a little wet, it'll be able to be bent pretty easily. And what I'll do is then clamp it to the side using just some painter's tape to hold it down, and then let it dry out. And when it dries, it'll dry to the shape of the side of the guitar. And then I'll be able to glue it and then put it on the inside, clamp it to the inside, and we'll have a nice little solid area to cut the sound port. So that's the first thing I'm doing, and that's what you're going to see now. Okay, you may have noticed that I placed, before I put the tape on, I ran it over my pants a couple times just to get some of the sticky off, so it's just barely sticking on here. I don't want to pull up any finish or do anything like that. But I put this plastic down. It's going to protect the outside of the guitar from any moisture. Now I've got this piece of wood on here. It is being clamped on both sides by magnets and also by the tape. I want to hold it to that rounded shape so I can have it very close to exactly the shape I want it when I glue it to the inside, so it'll fit nice and snug. I'm going to let that sit for a day or so and let it completely dry out. When it's dry, it'll retain that shape. Hi folks. Okay, it's the next day. It's 24 hours later, and this little piece of solid mahogany is dried completely, and it's taken the shape of the side, as you can see. I just pulled it off the side. I removed the plastic. I put new tape down, and again, whenever I tape, I always put the tape against my pants first to get some of the adhesive off, and then put it on. I don't want to be pulling up any finish. But so now that I've got this piece of solid wood, and the grain is again running this way. I didn't show you why I do it that. As I said yesterday, the grain on the side of the guitar runs lengthwise like this. This is running crosswise. Why do I do that? Well, I'm going to take a little piece of this solid mahogany here I have. And you'll notice that if I were to run this grain this way, around the side, it wouldn't give any strength to keeping this from splitting, because along the grain, it's very easy to bend and split the wood. As you can see, it just splits easily that way. If I take it this way, lengthwise, and try to break it along the grain, it's much harder. Hold on. There you go. I was able to, and you can see it splinters. It's very hard to do. And that's what we want. We want the strength of the lengthwise grain, the grain, holding against the side splitting. So that's why we have it like this. Okay. So I put new tape here, and I marked where the hole is going to be. It's going to be in this area. The center of the hole is going to be right where I put a little mark here. I don't think you can see that, but I put a little mark there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this patch. It's cut exactly to fit between the curving on the inside and to fit right up against the side. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to center inside, and I'm going to take these magnets, these little sort of little magnets, and with a bar attached to them. And they're neodymium and quite hard. They go together quite tightly. Anyway, I'm going to take those and use them to hold this to the inside, right about there. And then I'm going to drill a little tiny hole between here on the side and through this. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want this piece of wood to center perfectly where I'm going to put this when I put it on the inside. Okay, so I have the magnets holding this in place. It is centered. There we go. And I'm going to make a little mark so I know exactly where to drill. I can adjust this a little bit. Okay. Made a mark. I've made a mark. I have the magnets holding it in place. And I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole straight through the side very carefully. Okay. Now I've drilled through the patch. I've drilled through the side. The next step is going to be gluing this up to the inside. Now I'm going to be connecting this with these magnets, and also I'm going to be using a piece of dowel that I'm going to also cut a little hole in and going to string it and pull it through. So it'll literally be on the back side of this. It'll pull this up to the center, and I'll use the magnets on the outside to hold everything together and clamp it and leave it for 24 hours and we'll be good to go. Before I go that far, I have a few tests I will do just to make sure everything's going to line up perfectly. It's always best to double and triple check everything before you start to add glue, because you want it to go smoothly. When you put the glue in, that can be a messy process, and in fact it's the hardest part of this whole thing, gluing this patch to the inside. You want to make sure it goes smoothly, so we'll take it a step at a time. Okay, so let me show you what I've done. I've taken a little bit of round dowel. I've cut a hole through it. I took a piece of wire, ran it through this, put a little ball in the end so it would be able to pull. I'm going to put this wire through this hole. That will fish this up from the inside and push against on the inside. How will I pull on this? Well, some years ago I made these cute little clamps. I call them pull clamps. All they do is they sit on the outside and I tie the wire to it, and then I just tighten this down and it slowly pulls it up nice and snug against the inside. These are great. I've used these for cracks that I can't reach along the inside of the guitar. So what I can do is I can use a 10 or a 13 first string, and I can make a little cleat, drill a tiny hole in the center, glue it, pull it up through, and then tighten it up from the outside. And this, these little feet here, keep this from getting sort of splayed upwards. Sometimes people will put like just a jack in there, and that works, but it also has a tendency to splay upwards, so then you have to clamp on the outside to hold it flat. It can be a problem. This is nice. It just pulls it right up to the surface, but doesn't deform the top. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do a test run here and try it out. So I'll fish this through the hole from the inside, and this is not easy. This is, like I said, this is the hard part of doing this, is having to do this somewhat blind. That feels good. Okay, now I'm just going to sight and make sure this is fitting exactly where I want it to be. Anyway, so it fits perfectly now. I dry fitted it. It goes right up against where it should. It's at the right curve. Everything's ready to go. But this is the messy part of the job. This is the part of the job that no one likes. It's the gluing, and some people may like it, but when you're gluing sort of blind like this, it can be messy. So what do? I actually put, if you can sort of see in there, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a rag inside the guitar, covering as much area as I can, so that as I move around, I'm going to cover this patch with glue. I'm going to move it into place, but in that process, it's almost impossible not to get a couple little glue drops here and there. I put the rag down so it catches that, so I don't get any glue anywhere. And even after all that, I'll pull the rag out and I'll still go in and inspect, make sure if there's any little glue that got away, I'll clean it up at that point. But at this point, I'm going to glue this, pull it up, use my clamp to hold it in place, then get my magnetic clamps and put them on the outsides to hold them in place. The main clamp will hold it in the middle. The outside clamps will be held, or outside areas will be held by magnets. And then I'll pull the rag out and clean everything up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Got it nice and even on this patch. Now, got to get in the guitar without creating a mess. And look at that, beautiful. I'm going to pull it into place. Here's where it gets very dicey, but I can hear it's going into place. Good, that's a good sign. Okay, I'm going to take my glove off, let that sit for a second. Take a look and see how it's placed. Looks pretty good. Let me make sure this rag isn't in the way. There we go. I think it's good there. That looks very good. Okay, now I've got to work quickly here. I'm going to first attach this clamp. As I put on each clamp, I'm going to check to make sure everything's still where it should be. Yep, feels good. Okay, let's get the magnets into place. Beautiful, getting a nice amount of squeeze out there, which is what I want. Okay, now I'm going to clean any squeeze out I can find in here, any glue. I was very good about not getting much in. In fact, I don't see any drops. Let me take another look. Nope. That's what prep is all about. Okay, so there you go. Now it's time to let this dry, and I'll let this dry for 24 hours so it cures nicely. Alright, so it's the next day, and I pulled the magnets off and the clamp off, and the patches very nicely attached to the inside, the piece of mahogany that's going to give strength to the area. Now it's time for me to draw out a an oval. Now I'm going to soundport shape. They can be, a soundport shape can be all sorts of shapes. It could be a clover leaf, could be an oval, it's just a circle. A lot of companies just do a circle or an oval. Some people do like a teardrop sort of shape. You can do a fleur-de-lis. You can do really anything you want. My thing is that I like to do an oval, and I'll show you why. The person sits at an angle where they're essentially above the guitar, as you can see I am here. Where my chin is right above where the center of this will be. I want, just for the use of being able to hear better, I want the sound to project to both ears, but not so much out this way or this way. So I wouldn't have an oval that would be shaped longwise this way, because it would send sound that way and this way, and not so much this way. I'm going to have an oval going this direction. And to do that, I'm going to, I made a bunch of ovals, and I wanted to see which one I liked, and I like this one and this one. This one I think is a little longer than I want, although I might end up going that way, but both of these are about 1.25 inches wide this way. This one happens to be about 1.5 inches this way, which is exactly the size that I wanted. I wanted it to be 1.25 inches this way, about 1.5 inches this way. Not too big, not too small, just right. So that's the one I'm going to go with. So I'll transfer this to here, and then we'll start cutting. Okay, so at this point, I've done within about 1/16 of an inch of where I want to be. I want to be inside this black line here. So I'm about 1/16 of an inch inside there. This next part starts to become artistic. It's less about measurement, it's more about making this look exactly right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove most of the blue paper tape that's protecting the surface, and I'm going to go ahead and do this inside area very slowly with this little handheld Dremel and a sandpaper. And I've already got it to the point where it's pretty smooth, but I've just got to work my way around and keep doing it until I get just the shape that I want. It's looking good. I'm going to check the size here, see if it's as large as I want it. It's pretty close. I wanted it 1.5 inches lengthwise, and it's right on the money there. And I wanted it just under 1.25 inches widthwise, and it's about 1 inch. It looks like 1.1 1/8. Let me get on my other. So it's at about 1 1/8 inches wide. So now it's up to me to sort of decide, how do I like the way it looks. I like it. It's gentle. It's got a nice opening here. I think I'm going to have to elongate this side a little bit. So what I'm going to do is do that. I'm going to take everything off and do it then by hand. And we'll see how it comes out. It should come out good. Okay, I think I've got this the way I want it to look. You can see it there. It's a nice size, not too big. Should allow a nice bit of sound to come out. Won't change the resonance frequency of the instrument too much. It might slightly, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make that big a difference. If you look very carefully, you can see that the backing wood matches the wood that's here. I still need to sand this by hand, get it nice and smooth, and then I will stain it slightly so it'll have a darker look, sort of like this binding here, and right in the side, the hole there. And then I'll take some shellac and just touch up just the area here with some shellac so that it doesn't get dirty or collect dust or dirt or get weird over the years. It seals up the pores of the wood there. So that's what we're doing next. I put a number of coats of shellac on the inside of this, along with a little bit of stain. Let's see if I can make it so you can see that. You can see that the inside wood here matches this here, so it's actually looks quite nice. There is, like I said, a number of coats of shellac. You can kind of see a shininess there. I don't know if you can see that. But the wood is protected, a little bit of dust got on there, nice. But it looks good, and it sounds good. So, here we go. Let's see if we can get it in tune here. Nice little guitar. Cervantes is the company that makes it. And now he's got his sound port. Take care.